Most people imagine awakening as a permanent state of bliss, overflowing with love, joy, and endless peace. But is that really true? What if awakening feels nothing like you expected? What if, instead of ecstasy, what arises is a deep loneliness, or even the strange thought, "I want to return this experience, it's not what I signed up for"? This is exactly what spiritual teacher Rupert Spira once addressed. Let's explore his insights and see why awakening is not the fantasy many imagine. Part 1. The Myth of Eternal Bliss. The student asked, "Isn't awakening supposed to be blissful? Why don't I feel that?" Rupert smiled and admitted, awakening didn't bring him fireworks or nonstop joy. In fact, there was loneliness, confusion, and even the wish to send it back. What did happen, however, was undeniable clarity, the simple knowing that I exist. Not the body, not the mind, not the story, just pure being. Awakening doesn't always match the dream of constant happiness. Instead, it's the recognition of what you truly are, beyond experience. Part 2. Turning attention to the self. Rupert explained, "It's not enough to know I am. We must turn attention to the one who says, I am. Who notices your being? Who is aware of your awareness? The answer is not a separate self. It is awareness itself, aware of itself." This is what Ramana Maharshi called self-inquiry. It's not about observing yourself like an object. It's about consciously being yourself, resting as awareness. And when you do, certain qualities naturally arise. Part 3. From stillness to joy. The first quality to emerge is stillness. This isn't forced calm, but a deep background silence that never leaves, like a vast lake beneath the waves of thought and emotion. Early travelers to India mistranslated this word ananda as bliss. But in truth, ananda means something more stable, the quiet peace of being. Yes, joy may sometimes bubble up like a fountain, but it doesn't have to. What matters is the lasting presence of stillness. Calm that eventually permeates even your thoughts, feelings, and actions. This stillness transforms into a gentle joy, not euphoric ecstasy, but steady fulfillment. As one teacher beautifully said, happiness is flowing stillness. Stillness is resting happiness. They are two sides of the same truth. Part 4. Emotions still arise, but they lose power. But what about sadness, frustration, or anxiety? Don't they still come? Yes, they do. Awakening doesn't mean you never feel upset again. You might get stuck in traffic and feel irritation rising. But here's the difference. Without the false self to fuel them, emotions lose their grip. Anger and frustration no longer dominate your experience. They arise, but they dissolve quickly into the deeper background of peace. Over time, these emotions show up less and less. And when they do, they no longer convince you that they define who you are. Part 5. The danger of fake non-duality. Rupert also warns about a trap, pseudo-non-duality. This happens when the ego adopts spiritual language as a mask. Someone says, "I know my anger just appears in awareness, so it's fine." But in reality, they're still identified with the separate self. The emotions are just as strong, but now disguised with spiritual concepts. True awakening isn't repeating mantras about awareness. It's the direct recognition that the separate me is an illusion. When that recognition is real, emotions begin to fade naturally, not because you forced them away, but because they no longer have a foundation. Part 6. Awakening is not about states. The most important reminder. Awakening is not about chasing a special state, no eternal bliss, no endless high. It's about resting as your true nature here and now. When we stop trying to grasp bliss, we find something far deeper. The steady joy of simply being. Closing. So if you've ever wondered why awakening didn't match the spiritual brochures, why there was no eternal fireworks, remember this. Awakening isn't about bliss, it's about truth. Bliss comes and goes, but awareness itself is unshakable. And from that stillness flows the real gift. Peace, joy, and freedom that no emotion can control. Thank you for watching. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment, subscribe, and share your own experiences. Together, let's walk this path of returning home to who we truly are.